Good morning. I was talking to a person of authority, a government official, a elected civil servant recently. And the civil servant informed me in not so many pleasant words that this particular person should be treated with respect, which is an ill-defined word. I don't think there's a law that says that you have to treat someone with respect. There's slander laws. There's a lot of laws, but respect in the level of, yes, sir, or I disagree with you. If I disagree with you is treating a publicly elected civil servant, if that's treating him with respect or her, they're out of their mind and they should get a new guy or gal in that office. Period. They should be treating us with respect. And let's talk about respect right now. All right, we've been at this now since the election, this 15-month, 16-month, God only knows how much money the networks, whom I will not name, have made propping up this Russia thing. It's unbelievable. I fail to understand the progressive mind. I have to reflect on this before I move on any further. All right, we have absolutely zero evidence that Trump colluded with Russia. And second of all, what is collusion? You mean talked to? Look up collusion. Find me a criminal statute for collusion. And really, because I'm curious. I don't know what collusion means, I know what assault means, I know what arson means or murder or tax evasion, but I don't know what collusion means. So, all right. And he says, they tapped my phones, Trump does. And the left, now, think about this, all right? We all knew what he meant by tapping his phones. The guy's 70 years old. You don't think that phrase might be a little dated? My God. And then those stations who may not be known tell us he's lying because they weren't technically tapped. They just got the dot-dash binary bit stream, in other words, they stole everything. They took everything, phone, everything. They took everything, but they didn't tap it like you would if you were working at the telephone company, which if they tapped the line at the telephone company where I happen to work, and usually what would happen is they'd go down to the central office, where the hub, where all the underground comes in to this concrete building. Every town centrally has one, not for long maybe, but and there's cables and there's cable pairs and every phone number has a tip and ring, and if you put two clamps on each one of those phone wires, the line is tapped, and you could sit there and listen if you wanted to, or record it as the government would do. So we all knew that was not what was happening. There's sensors for that now. They can, the person who's provided with the phone service, if they're they need security, they have meters and things that can sense if there's been a load put on the pair. So that, of course, they weren't tapping his friggin' lines. They were listening to everything. So Obama was listening to everything. My God, you guys are unbelievable. So, all right. So we got that. All right. Now, why were they doing that? Back in a minute. Obama administration. We had Benghazi. All right. But And if you don't know about Benghazi, if you have an opinion other than it was a debacle, and they didn't want to send anybody in to help them, that's basically what it was. They did not want to send people to help them. Bottom fucking line. Let them die. They waited. They could have sent people in. They could have done a... As a layman who played G.I. Joes as a kid, I have thought of a dozen ways they could have slowed down or halted that thing. You know? And out of those dozen, 9 of them probably required no boots on the ground. You know, maybe the other 3 had some paratroopers, you know, zooming in low, you know, and reinforcing the friggin' place with some heavier weaponry. You know, bullshit. So anyway, so they had that, they had the IRS, they had that Fast and Furious giving the cartels, the same people who were trying to take your weapons, the same people, sold them to the Mexican cartels. What did they sell them? They didn't sell them shotguns. They sold them fucking rifles, semi-automatic rifles, maybe worse. But I don't know. I know the story. I know a lot about it, but I don't really care what they sold them, because they sold them guns. But I wouldn't be surprised if Obama and that friggin' guy from the Justice Department, his buddy, I wouldn't be surprised if they sold them AR-15s. So that, Fast and Furious, Benghazi disgrace, the IRS targeting friggin' nonprofit rights. Holy shit. It's something you only used to hear about in books, you know? That's horrible. It's horrible. And now this thing with the Justice Department and the FBI is the biggest stain on this country that there's ever been. And I'll go right back to that politician that I was talking to who wanted me to treat him with respect when the entire federal government, well, when a large portion of the federal government are practicing criminal behaviors and covering them up with conspiracy theories with no facts. My God, people, you know, how do you not see this stuff? That's why I'm going to get back to the mind of the liberal. How can you sit there? You have to cut me off in the first word. You have to cut all of us off in the first word to not hear what we're saying. We have the dossier that's been fundamentally proven in 7 steps. The whole track of that Steele dossier was created by us. The Democrats, the DNC, some bastard rhino Republican, I don't know. Rubio, I don't know. I heard he had a piece of McCain sure is. I think McCain's got something to hide. He's jumped ship on Trump like a child. I mean, it's like you couldn't hurt somebody's feelings. Come on, he's a friggin' senator. Grow up, McCain. Because if you're an establishment, you know, fucking, I don't know, maybe he is that guy the Democrats talk about. Maybe McCain is that guy that gives the Republican Party a bad name. That military industrial complex son of a bitch that could give a shit for the First and Second Amendment. You know, maybe that's the guys. He's just one of those guys. Thank God he wasn't president. Even at least we learned a lesson from Obama, you know. So they transpire a corrupt, smokescreen, decoy, massive scandal for a couple of reasons. To excuse why Hillary lost, which they didn't care much about. They don't care. They weren't afraid of Hillary losing as much as they were afraid of us winning, because whoever got in office, whoever took that seat, was going to figure out what the last fucking guy did. And his goons, his friggin' hemorrhagic fever goons, man. And you know, I always wondered why Obama left so peacefully, because they did not peacefully, but left so easily. You know, he had plans. Because you know, other people talked about third terms and the way his role was going. Who knows what they could have done? You know, they just elected a guy in China for life. I think that's not necessarily a good thing to have a guy for life as your leader. I think that's a good thing for him and his family. Maybe not the Chinese people's families, unless he's, you know, there were good kings and bad kings. You know, so that's the problem with those kind of, with thrones like that. You know, you can get a real good guy or you can get a real bad guy. But I digress back to the Obama administration. They've angered half the country with their crazy ass conspiracy, and now they're trying to deflect from it with some porn star because they got nothing. Come on. Think about it. Whatever. A fucking porn star back in his past? I don't care. I care about young teenage secretaries, heads under the desks of presidents while they're in office, but I could give a shit. My God. That's not impeachable. I don't give a shit. And you know what? I hope it's nothing. And it probably is nothing. All of it's nothing. But Russia's nothing. But for you friggin' gossip columnists, you're desperate, despicable people, you know? Some of you are. The uninformed, uneducated part of your party, I feel sorry for. But the ones, the progressive limousine liberals and the fucking, you know, academians and these coffee shop liberals down in Key West, they ain't worth two shits. They're not worth two shits. They do well, you know, because, you know, they're on the high end of the bell curve. If you live in Key West as a progressive, you're not exactly, you know, coming from Harlem, if you know what I mean. You know, these people didn't come from Harlem. They had cushy little lives with white-collar parents. Very few of them had iron worker fathers. My father was an iron worker. All right. In the golden age of working for my aunt's husband, his brother-in-law had a company in New Jersey, Victory Iron Works. And my father was in the military, and he was an iron worker, and then he had a bed and breakfast in the Keys, you know. But those folks in Key West, they didn't get there like that, you know. They got there, mommy and daddy, and some of them are educated, I'll give you that. Some of them are shitty at what they do, I'll tell you that. Some of the government employees, I mean, they have to be kidding me. They actually have to be kidding me. I've had white collar, I don't even know if I want to say this right now. I've had naive, angry feminist lawyers, prosecutors in my day tell me it's getting so taken advantage of by the detectives that work under them that they're not even sure who the boss is. A district attorney not knowing who the boss is over a field investigator who's running rings around them. It's a disgrace. It's not her fault. It's the guy above her's fault and the guy above his fault. And you know what? I'll end with this. I don't know if my videos are going to catch on. I do have to stay focused, but it's just not my nature. You know, I like to run around to different topics and contrast and do things like that. But civil servants suck right now. Because they've been liberalized. They're so damn afraid of getting sued. And they got so many restraints on them. But at any rate, I wonder, you know who the real bad guy is? The guy who calls the elected official. Because I know there's people who call them before they lash out at me. I wonder who the guy is that called you before your first conversation with me. I wonder who he was or she was, because that's a bad person. There's your bad person. Anyway, this was sort of a subliminal message and a tutorial on how sucky it is for our 30-year-old kids. Thank God mine's out and about with a good guy and doing all right, but I don't. There's too many living at home with 80 grand in debt, and the banks are laughing at them, and they're making progressives out of them because they're making them poor, and progressives, the mass progressive movement tends to be the poor because they get desperate. And it's easy for a desperate person to get influenced by the wrong side. And that's the most disgraceful thing about the left, is they'll manipulate the hungriest, most desperate communities in our country for their own gain. And they'll point the finger at the guy who doesn't even know what's going on in that city. You know, the fucking farmer, or the guy. Here's the upper class white they're talking about. Or believe me, there's a lot of races going into that New York City. They're not all white. They maybe 40 years ago, the vast majority white people work. They worked. You know, I'm not. They didn't like say I'm a racist. I want a job. They said, please, I need a job. You know, they weren't thinking about other families. They were just trying to get a job. So here's that echelon that maybe part of these people are that 1% that the media likes to talk about, all right? And I'll end with this, just because the grass is always greener on the other side of the street, all right? A lot of them live down by me in central New Jersey. There's a train that runs from Jersey City, I think, to, this is either Jersey City or Newark, I don't know which. I think Jersey City. And then, so they get on the train at 6 a.m. This is that 1% that you're talking about. The guy gets up at 4:30, okay, 4:30, 5 o'clock, takes a shower, shaves, puts on his suit, grabs his paper, has a cup of coffee, goes down to the train station in the dark in February in New Jersey. And that ain't the Florida Keys, my smile on a stick friends. That's real winter, you know. It's not Maine, but it's not Miami. So he gets on this train, and it goes all the way up the coast. Spring Lake, Belmar, Long Branch, you know, Eatontown, I'm not in order, you know, and a bunch of other places. And then the guy, an hour or so later, gets off the train in Jersey City. And then he gets on what they call the PATH train. It's the underground train. And this I've only done this a few times, but I know them. And they take the train into the city, under the ground. They come up, and then they either take a taxi or another subway to their building, and they grab in an elevator, and they go up to the 30, 40, or if they were really unfortunate, the 105th floor, like my buddy did. And they work all day, and they get home at 8 o'clock at night. And that's the guys on the train, and gals. And then the ones that drive in, basically the same thing. Some people aren't close enough to the train. There's a whole bunch of variables why they drive instead of take that train. Many variables. But they get stuck in traffic every day at the Lincoln Tunnel, at the Holland Tunnel, at the George Washington Bridge. Hours of traffic going in, figuring for it when they leave their house in the dark, you know. And then they drive in and they get through all the beeping and honking and smog and the tunnels and bridges. And they park in some lot underneath or above a building, if they're lucky. And then they take that elevator up to the 30th, 40th, or 105th floor if they were really unlucky. And they come down and do the same thing, get home 7, 8 o'clock at night, and do it every day. Do their wives do they have houses at the beach? Some of them do. Many of them do. Many of them live in those houses at the beach. Do they have $1 million properties? Some of them do. You better believe it. If I worked 12 hours a day, if I went to school and studied like they did, and worked 12 hours a day, 4 of which is in a friggin' train or in a traffic jam, to bring home 150, maybe $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, with taxes of 15, 20 grand in Jersey for their house, maybe more. In Brielle, New Jersey, they pay $30,000 on Riverview. My father's taxes are, I don't know. The taxes on my street, I'm sure, are $15,000 a year now. You know. Now, granted, they can sell houses and make money now and then. And they have, you know, their wives have nice summers. They get their weeks off. They spend nice weeks on the beach. Spring Lake, Belmar, Bradley, Point Pleasant, Manasquan. The rich ones, Bay Head. There's like 5 guys out of the 10 million that take helicopters into the city. You know, and all those news media that he who would not want to be named tell you about is the other 10 million, but they don't tell you what they do to get there and what they do to get home and how they lose their hair at 40 and unless they have very balanced lives, they become obese. They do. I see it. Obese heart attack victims at 50 years old from working 12 hours a day since they got out of college. And you're telling me that there's white, what's it called, you call it? My God. White privilege? I wouldn't do that job. You know, there are jobs I could have done, but I didn't want that life. You know, plus I had other things going on. But you tell us that those people are, you say things about those people, and you don't even know how the fuck they live. Shame on you. And the ones of you that do know how they live, like the academia liberals, and those smile on a stick progressives in quaint little towns like Cape Cod and Provincetown. I'm not talking about the gays. I'm talking about the card-carrying, coffee shop sipping, heads on a stick progressives with more than a high school degree. You all got college degrees. And you're the worst. You're not the worst of them all, but socially you're the worst of them all. You know, you give me a black Democrat in a city or walking down the street, working guy, I can talk to him any day of the week. The garbage men out here, I can talk to them about anything. I could talk politics with them, even though they're supposed to be Democrats. And you know how they hate the word, you people? Well, you people, and I'll look right at your eye, you people need to put your head back on your shoulders, because you're the problem. You're the enablers of those above you that are the real problem. So how do you turn the mind of a liberal? How do you get past the ears being shut on the first word? The contempt. What is the mindset of a person who can't intellectualize an argument past the first word with no retort other than hate, stereotype, factless stereotype and innuendo? The left can make innuendo look better than the truth, and that's a fucking disgrace. So I hope you watch this, sir. Anybody have a lovely day. I'm done, and the front came through. This is my second video today. It's a very nice day out. Enjoy your day, and Let's take this place back from these knuckleheads. Stand up to them.